In the previous class, we had started with the communication interfaces. We have seen there are two types: onboard communication interface and external communication interfaces, right? In onboard communication interfaces, we have seen one example of I2C bus, right? I2C, that is inter-integrated circuit, where there are only two lines, right? There are only two lines, a serial clock and serial data line, over which the data is transmitted. The clock, it helps in synchronization, and data is used for the half duplex communication. That means on the same data line, the data is sent in both the directions, from the master to the slave and slave to the master, right? Only in one direction at a time. So it is half duplex model. Right. So we have seen this. We have seen an example where it is used, like we can use it for connecting a microcontroller with other devices like memory or some other devices like some input or output devices, like maybe sensors. So normally we use them in interfacing some sensors to the microcontroller. Even now it is used for interfacing microcontroller to some sensors like temperature sensor or accelerometer, such things. Even in the Arduino devices and all, when we connect the sensors, the kind of interfacing we use is I2C bus. Okay. The next kind of interface is serial peripheral interface. Today we will look at this serial peripheral interface bus, which in short we call SPI. Okay, so as the name itself suggests, again, this is also a serial communication, just like I2C. This is another serial communication. It is a synchronous. Even here it is synchronous, means there is a synchronization which is achieved through clock. So even in I2C there was a clock, so we call that a synchronous. Here also it is a synchronous, and this is a bidirectional, just like the previous case. This is also bidirectional, but the main difference is it is a full duplex interface bus. I2C was half duplex, whereas this is full duplex, because in both the directions communication is possible at the same time. Because we have a four wires here. We have for dedicated lines for communication in both the directions. Okay, that's why it is a full duplex model. The concept of SPI, this was brought by Motorola, company Motorola. So it is a single master multi-slave system. That means there can be more than one masters, but at a time only one master can be there, and there can be more than one slaves. So there can be more than one masters, but only one master can be active at any point of time, and there can be more number of slave devices connected to the same master. Okay, so as we have seen, it is a four wire interface. Four wire interface means there are four lines for signals. Okay, so four lines. The two lines are MOSI and MISO, that is master out, slave in, and master in, slave out, which is used for carrying the data from the master to the slave. Master out, slave in means from the master to the slave. Master in, slave out means from the slave to the master. So there are two dedicated lines for the data transfer in both the directions. That's why it allows for full duplex communication. Okay, master out, slave in short we call it MOSI. Okay, this is a signal line carrying the data from master to slave device, from the master to the slave. So it is also known as slave input or slave data in. Okay, slave input or slave data in, that means the input is into the slave from master. So that is slave in, master out, slave in. Another signal line is master in, slave out, MISO. This is a signal line carrying data from slave to the master. That means it is output from the slave and input to the master. It is also known as slave out, SO, or slave data out, SDO. So this is in contrast to what we had in I2C. There we had only one signal line or one data line, that is SDA, serial data. On that same line at a time only in one direction, that is from master to the slave or slave to the master, depending on the read or write bit, the direction was controlled. That's why it was half duplex. Here we have two different lines for both the directions, so it is full duplex model. Then there is a serial clock, just like in previous case. Here there is serial clock because it is again a synchronous type of communication which is used to carry the clock signals. And here we have another extra line, that is the slave select. Slave select line. This is to select the slave device. Since it is a multi-slave system, there can be more than one slaves connected to the same master. So at a time you can send data or receive data from only one slave device. So which slave device is to be selected, that is depending on this slave selector. So it is an active low signal. That means for whichever slave device this signal is low, that particular device is said to be selected. For all other devices, this line will be high. This line will be high. Okay. So this is about the block diagram or the structure of SPI bus. The structure of SPI bus. So we have seen this is the master and these are the slaves. There is one master at a time and there can be multiple slaves. As we have seen, there are 4 lines here. Okay. So here this SCL is the serial clock, SCL or SCLK, serial clock. Then there is master out, slave in, and master in, slave out. And then there is SS, that is the slave select. Slash indicates it is active low. Okay. Slash indicates it is active low. So here there are 2 slaves connected. One is serial EEPROM, that is a memory device. Another is LCD display. Okay, LCD, that is for displaying, liquid crystal display. For it is an output device which is used for displaying. Both are connected using SPI communication. So here this serial clock is a common line because it is synchronous. The same clock is given to all the devices, to the master as well as the slaves. You can see from the serial clock there is connection to the SCL pin of the master, that is microcontroller or processor. Similarly, the SCL pin of both the slaves. So all these devices will have MISO, SCL and MOSI pins. Okay. Then the MOSI pin is connected to MOSI pin of all the devices. MISO line is connected to MISO pins of all the devices. You can see here MOSI line to the same thing. There is a connection to the MOSI pin of the master, that is microcontroller, and to the same line you have connection to the slave and slave 1 and slave 2. Similarly to MISO, there is connection to the master and both the slaves. Okay. Then as I said, at a time, only one slave device can be active or selected. To do that, we have these slave select pins. Since there are 2 slaves connected, we have 2 slave select 1 and slave select 2. So each of these slaves will have the slave select pin. So all are active low. These indicate active low. That means at a time, one of these will be 0. By default, there will be 1. One of these will be 0. So whichever is 0, that will be selected. If this is 0, this SS1 will be 0. That means it will send the data to slave 1 or receive data from slave 1. Similarly, if SS2 is 0, this slave 2 will be selected. It will send the data. It is an output device. It can only send the data to that particular SPI device, that is LCD. Okay, this is the way it works. So normally the operation that the way it operates is by using shift register. Okay, the data, it is put into these registers. There will be registers for MOSI and MISO, and bit by bit they will be put into the registers of the master and the slave. Okay, so the master is responsible for generating the clock. It selects the required slave device by asserting the corresponding slave device's slave select signal low, because it is an active low. One of the devices slave select line will be made low, and thereby it will select the particular slave. The data outline of all the slave devices, when not selected, they float at high impedance state. That is, the MISO pin will be in high impedance when any of the slave devices not selected. The serial data transmission through SPI is fully configurable. That means you can change the settings or configurations. That is done by using a certain set of registers. There is a set of control register and a status register, okay, which hold the data for these configurations. The control register, it holds different configuration parameters like master or slave selection for the device, okay, which slave has to be selected and all. Then the baud rate selection for communication, that is baud rate is the rate of data transfer which we use for communication. Then the clock signal control, the frequency of the clock signal and all, that will be those configurations will be stored in the control register. Then the status register, it holds the status of the different conditions which are required for the transmission and reception. Okay, for that, we see the principle on which the SPI works is on the principle of Shift register. You know what a shift register is, right? It is a, the bits are shifted in either direction, in the right direction or in the left direction within the same register. Normally, if it's a 8-bit register, bits are moved from D7, D6, D5, D2, D4, that way in one particular order. So the master and slave devices, they contain a special shift register to transmit and receive the data. Okay, the size of the shift register is again dependent on the device, and normally it will be multiples of 8, like 8, 16, 24, 32. Okay, depending on what size the device requires. Okay, what happens is during the transmission from the master to the slave, from master to the slave means it is MOSI, master out, slave in, right? Master out, slave in. From the master, if something has to be sent to the slave, then what happens? The data in the master's shift register is shifted out to the MOSI pin. What happens is the data from master's shift register, there will be shift registers in master as well as in slave. Okay, so and the data is sent or received bit by bit. Okay, so it is shifted either out or in. So if it has to be from MOSI, I mean if it has to be from master to the slave, then from master's shift register the data is shifted out to the MOSI pin, and then it enters the shift registers of the slave device through the MOSI pin of the slave device. This way. In this MOSI pin, the data is shifted one bit by one bit on the MOSI line. On the same line, the slave device's MOSI is connected. So that data is input into the MOSI shift register of the slave device. Okay, if this device is selected, then this device the data will be shifted one bit by bit. At the same time, the shifted out data bit from the slave device's shift register, it enters the shift register of the master device through MISO pin. Okay. So whatever when it is shifted, it will be shifted in a particular direction. So what about, if it is shifted uh, right, then what about the rightmost bit? It has to be shifted out, right? So that shifted out bit will be sent to the master through the MISO pin. What happens in MISO is it is master in, slave out, right? So master in, slave out. So those bits which are shifted out, they will come to MISO pin, and on through this MISO line, they will be copied into the shift register of the master. This is master in, slave out. So what happens is the data will be shifted from master to the slave, and the shifted out bits will again be shifted from slave to the master. That's why they will form a circular buffer. Okay, they will form a circular buffer from master to the slave and from the slave to the master through pairs of MOSI and MISO registers. Okay, so when compared to I2C, this bus, that is SPI, is more suitable for applications which require transfer of data in streams. Streams means bit streams. Okay, there are more number of bits are to be transferred. One best example you can give is we use these in transferring data or interfacing the devices like LCD, where more number of data are used. Still, the transfer is serial, through serial communication. Okay. So for LCD interfacing or even for some kind of memory like flash and all, we use this SPI bus. So the only limitation what we observe is it does not support an acknowledgement mechanism. Okay, we have seen in I2C there is acknowledgement after sending each byte or 8 bits, right? Or after sending an address and all. So here there is no acknowledgement. You are not sending any address. You use slave select lines to select a particular device, and the transfer takes place through shift registers. So there is no acknowledgement, and that is a drawback actually, because if any communication is not successful, the sender or receiver will not get acknowledgement whether it is done or not. Okay, so that's a major drawback of this SPIs. So this is about SPI. This is again a kind of onboard communication interface. So both of these, like I2C and SPI, whatever we have seen, they are onboard serial communication interfaces. Apart from this, and both of these are synchronous communication. So only these two are mentioned in your syllabus. Earlier, you had some other things like UART, like universal asynchronous receive transmit, and one wire interface, which were also serial, but UART was asynchronous. There was no clock there, so it was asynchronous. The acknowledgement signals, they were there, for handshaking signals were there for successful to detect whether the communication is successful or not. Okay. And then there was even parallel communication, parallel interface. It was there in the syllabus. Now what has happened is UART and parallel interface, those are there in the subject microcontroller in fourth sem. So it was a mere repetition. So it has been removed. Then the next part what we have is external communication interfaces. These external communication interface are interfaces which are used to communicate between the embedded system and the external world. That means it is not on the same board, which is outside the board of the embedded system. So they refer to different communication channels or buses used by the embedded system to communicate with external world. Okay, so here again there are different things. It can be serial, it can be wired or wireless. So there is RS-232, C, RS-485. Okay, USB. These are wired communication, right? Then IEEE 1394. This is also wired. Then wireless things like infrared, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Zigbee, GPRS, and other things. So all these things were there, right? Okay, RS-232, which was again a repetition as you had in microcontrollers, which is used for interfacing microcontrollers to RS-232 devices. So then USB, which is most commonly used thing at present. Okay, so all these, they have been removed from the syllabus. What we have now is infrared, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and Zigbee in this particular topic. So the first thing that we have in external communication interface is infrared. In short, we call that IRDA. IR, it is also called IR or IRDA, rather IRDA. It stands for Infrared Data Association. Okay, IRDA or infrared, it is a serial half duplex line of sight based wireless technology for data communication between devices. So it is a wireless thing. Unlike the other things what we have seen, this is a wireless thing where there is no physical connection between the sender and the receiver. The transmission is achieved through radiations. It is a serial communication. That means it's a serial communication. That means the data is sent bit by bit, and it is half duplex. You know what the meaning of half duplex is? Communication is possible only in one direction at a time, but it is possible in both the directions, but not at the same time. And what does line of sight based communication mean? Line of sight based communication means the sender and the receiver, they have to be visible to each other. There cannot be any obstacle in between. Okay, so that is called line of sight, and they have to be in a straight line normally, and there cannot be any obstacle in between. That is called line of sight communication. So it is in use from good old days, from many years. Okay, and they are used for remote controls in your TV or any normal remote controls. We use infrared. Okay, so that means if there is an obstacle in between, it will not work, right? You might observe that. So it uses infrared waves of the electromagnetic spectrum for transmitting the data. So what do you mean by infrared waves? The light spectrum. So what is the frequency of light, visible light? Or what are the colors that are visible? VIBGYOR, right? Violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. So which of these has the highest frequency? Okay, violet. Yeah, the violet has the highest frequency. And which of them have the lowest frequency? Red, right? So the highest frequency signal is violet and the lowest frequency color is the red. That means violet has the shortest wavelength and the red has the largest wavelength. Okay, the frequency and wavelength, they are inversely proportional to each other, right? So the highest frequency signal is, or the color is violet. So anything more than that are called, just above that is called ultraviolet, right? The color just above, or the radiations just above the frequency of violet are called the ultraviolet rays, or the rays just below the red is called infrared. Infrared means below red. Okay, below red means, what is below red? The frequency is below the frequency of the red color. That's what we mean by infrared. Okay, so the frequency is lesser than the frequency of the red. That means they are not visible. Only the visible light is only in the range of violet to red. Above that and below that, it is not visible to human eyes. So this IR rays are not visible to human eyes. Okay, So the frequency of them is lesser than the red color. So it supports point to point or point to multi-point communication. That means from one point to another point or one point to multiple points at the same time. Uh, if provided that all the devices are within the line of sight. Okay, that means there are no obstacles in between them. Normally, the range of communication for our infrared is from 10 centimeters to 1 meter. It can be more depending on the type of the. Again, there are different versions here. Type of the version we are using. The range can be increased by increasing the transmitting power of the IR device. Right. Again, by increasing the transmitting power, we can increase the range of the IR. Okay, then it supports the data rates ranging from, there's a wide range, you can see 9600 bits per second to 16 mbps, 16 megabits per second, that is 9.6 to 16 mega. Depending on the speed of data transmission, there are different types. Okay, the basic one is serial IR. It supports data ranges from 9600 to 115.2 kbps. Then there is medium IR, MIR, from 0.576 to 1.152 mbps. Then fast IR up to 4 mbps. It supports up to 4 mbps. Then after this very fast IR, VFIR, it supports up to 16 mbps. Above this, there is ultra FIR, UFIR, it supports up to 96 mbps. Then still above this, there is Giga IR. It supports data rates up from 512 mbps to 1 gbps. Okay, this is the maximum it can achieve. So what it does is it involves a transmitter and a receiver. Transmitter unit for transmitting the data over IR or infrared, and a receiver for receiving the data. Okay, for transmitting, there is actually an LED, infrared light emitting diode. So this light is not visible to human eyes. Okay, it's an infrared light which is having the frequency lesser than the frequency of the red color. So that acts as the source, and at the receiver there will be a photodiode. Okay, now it is again the principle of a photodiode, where there is an LED and the photodiode which acts as the receiver. When IR rays fall on the diode, it gets activated and it will detect that some signal is sent. So both the transmitter and receiver will be present in each device normally, because it supports bidirectional data transfer. So, okay, since transmitter and receiver both are present, they are called transceivers. Transmitter and receiver together, they are called transceivers. But in certain things, like in remote control applications like TV remote control, you do not require bidirectional thing. Means from the remote control, you only send the signal, it is detected in the TV. You're not sending anything from TV back to the remote control. In that case, you require only a unidirectional communication. Okay, so the remote control contains only the transmitter, and the television unit, it contains only the receiver. Okay, so depending on application, we can have either transmitters and receivers or transceivers, which act as both. So to regulate this infrared communication, we have an association or a regulatory body, that is actually IRDA. It is Infrared Data Association. It is responsible for defining and licensing the specifications. Okay, so the specification, or the communication of through infrared, it has two parts. One is the physical link part, another one is the protocol part. Physical link means it is responsible for the transmission of data between the devices that support this IR communication. Protocol means it is responsible for defining the rules of communication. Okay, the physical link, it works on the wireless principle, making use of infrared for communication. So what is the frequency of that thing? Okay, and all those things will come under physical link. The IRDA, its specifications include standards for both physical link and protocol layer. The protocol, it contains implementations for different layers like the physical layer, media access control layer, and logical link layer. Okay, so these things, there are different layers in communication networks. These things you will be studying in detail in communication networks. So that's a subject that you're going to study in 7th semester. There are different levels and hierarchy of different layers. You'll be studying that. So this was used as a popular interface for file exchange and data transfer in low-cost devices. Even now in some devices, they use them. But earlier, before Bluetooth came, this was used for transfer of files. Even in mobile phones, there was IR transfer. Before Bluetooth, they used to copy like ringtones or songs using IR. It was little slower than Bluetooth, rather very slower than Bluetooth. Okay, After Bluetooth came, it was replaced by Bluetooth, and now we do not use Bluetooth. Also, normally we use some other things like you connect through Wi-Fi, or there are different applications like ShareIt and other things which actually use Wi-Fi for transfer of data or files between one devices to other. Right now, where do we use this IR is again in some remote control applications, in line of sight applications, right? So apart from that, we also use them in certain spectroscopy, okay, or in weather forecasting applications. So it is also used for thermal imaging and night vision devices. Like when there is no visible light, if you want to detect persons coming into a particular place, or to detect intruders, okay, or in thermal imaging means by changing temperature, or change in the blood flow in human bodies, okay, in some surveillance devices, in military applications, in all these applications we use this infrared at present. Apart from this, there are some other communication interfaces like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Zigbee. Okay, we'll be studying these in next class.